Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Michigan City Tree Board, Wednesday, February 5th. Roll call, please.
Connie Anderson, here. Barb Ginther, present. Laura Henderson, here. Laura Koch,
Present.
Jenny Stinley, absent. Mick Wolf.
I am also present.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Everybody get a chance to look over the meeting minutes from January 8th.
Move for approval.
Second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the tree board minutes from January 8th have been presented and approved. The Secretary Treasurer's report ending January 31st, 2020. Everybody have a chance to look over that one there?
Move for approval.
I second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The Secretary Treasurer's report has been approved for ending January 31st. Okay, claims for February. That is Debbie Wilson for Secretarial Services and $200, and board member compensation for attendance.
Move for approval. Second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Claims for February have been approved. Okay. Communications. Any kind of communications? Debbie has none. Real quick from the chair. Just for policy for the board, that any person throughout the city can write us questions and they will be answered as if they are presented in the communications. In case we get any, we don't want a long drawn out comments from the public. The public will have a typical decorum of a 5-minute public communications. But in any event, anytime there is a question, they can always write a question and it will be answered as we go along appropriate order. Thank you. So that's just a matter of policy for this upcoming year.
Okay.
We don't want to get bogged down in stuff. All right. Committee reports. Outreach. That's myself, Laura Kolk, and Laura Henderson. Education, gardening, landscape monthly tip, public relations, gardening, or calendar events, and Arbor Day. Let's see. And kind of last night, Jessica Arnett had a very good educational piece that she enlightened the council, which I thought was very good. Took a lot of time to put it together.
Yeah. I've been working on it for a little while. Would you like to email that to us?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, I was supposed to email it to council today too. Yeah. But I've been working on it for a while because I had been planning on, at some point giving that, but given what was on the agenda, it was just recommended that yesterday was the day to do it. So.
Okay. Well, gardening and landscaping, I don't know, we're kind of funny.
It's
a funny winter.
Weird.
Yeah.
It's finally snowing, like officially sticking out there. But it's been kind of dry, and when it hasn't been, it's been icy. So it has been pretty unique. But I found a lot of limbs down, old wood and dead wood and things like that. So it's kind of
been windy.
Right. Yeah. And I think the heaviness that comes along with that ice, has really brought a lot of stuff down.
Yeah.
So it just brings to light again how that's such an important thing to take care of any dead wooding on trees and how the colder months are actually a good time to do that and taking advantage of that before we start warming up, and then it's opening things up to be susceptible to any type of buggy or infection or anything like that. So, yeah.
Okay.
And then there's this event, the Environmental Extravaganza, which Dahlia invited us to participate in last.
That's right. Isn't that in
April?
That's it. That is in April. Okay.
It's April 25th from 1 to 5. And actually, I was just emailing with her and another member of the sustainability committee about that today. So I think, in the coming, month, it would be, I think, good for us to sort of think about, what kinds of materials we'd kind of like to have at our table. And, obviously I'll be there, and if any of you would be there, that'd be wonderful, I think.
I'd be able to be there too.
Yeah.
I think it might be time to do a little inventory on materials that we have, because I know several different people have several different items.
That would be wonderful, because I've been wondering with just different things coming up, like, okay, I need, I'd like to think of like pamphlets, flyers, literature that we could not only use at this event, but
well, it's just a general for every event.
Yeah.
Some events, I have a bunch of it. I have to look, but I think Beachside's probably got a box.
Yeah,
Put it out somewhere.
I think what I have, it's St. Patty's Day decoration, and I think I gave you a lot of the banners, but then I also have maybe some of. Do you remember those old green pamphlets? I don't know if those would even be helpful or valid at this time. I'll read it through it and make sure. But we do have those up.
I have a couple of 2 or 3 packets of the tree owner manual things from Community. Drew Hart gave them to me, and so I've got some of those. But I can also look into having something made or printed for us if that's a route we want to go. I also thought it might be good to have maybe sort of volunteer sign-up sheets at that table as well. I actually had a call today that I was going to bring up at this meeting. Just a woman super interested in volunteering to weed the rain gardens once a week.
Oh, awesome.
And yes, I was going to,
Yes.
you.
Let me know.
I told her, I was like, I'm going to talk with Laura Henderson. But she wants to get out there once a week, and you guys are out there once a month, right?
Yeah, we're probably going to do twice a month this year.
Oh, fantastic. Yes, let's talk.
What's her name? What do you want to tell me?
I didn't bring her name. But I have it sitting in my office, front and center, because that was going to be my first thing to do tomorrow. But I got really excited, just at the prospect of, recruiting more volunteers.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so
might help you with what we just discussed earlier.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah. So just having like a sign-up sheet, like, hey, would you want to be contacted about volunteer opportunities? And give us your email and your telephone number and what have you. And then we have, we can start compiling a central list. I don't know. I'm sure you have one, and or maybe. But, if we have that central list, then we have troops we can call on.
Yeah. Well, I was poking around online. Arbor Day has this thing. It's kind of interesting. It's sort of like a combination of a dichotomous key and a treasure hunt. So you're having the children do a dichotomous key, but it's as a treasure hunt.
You're kidding.
So you have these different things posted around. You say, is your tree broadleaf or evergreen?
Oh.
If it's broadleaf, go to number 1. If it's evergreen, go to number 2. So you go there, and then it has another question: is your leaf have compound leaves or whatever? And so you go around like that, and you wind up with deciding what your tree is.
Yeah. Oh my
gosh,
gosh, that's lovely.
That might be fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
This sign up would be nice at the senior center too. There's a lot of people.
Good idea.
They would like to do that. Get out there and a little bit.
Yeah, I am. I've never coordinated a large or I put volunteer groups that already existed in conversation with, resources and things of that nature, but I've never created a volunteer group or sort of established something like that. So I'm kind of learning the ropes here. I know Shannon Eason over at the Parks has a volunteer group that picks up trash every Monday at the beach. So I was going to say, hey, how did you do that?
Well, Nora Rice got basically started.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, but having a sign up at the senior center, I was going to put together forms just the sign-up sheet, and then have, I don't know if there's like a waiver involved. I'm sure there is. Something like that. Yeah.
So that's one thing you want to make sure and cover prior.
Yeah, so the waiver and a sign-up sheet.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
All right, I think we covered the gamut on that one there.
Oh,
Well, for
Arbor Day, do we
for
have trees?
Yeah, do we have trees?
Yeah, I ordered it from the nursery,
Okay.
from the state nursery. Yeah, so I think I did like 400 that we can hand out at the farmer's market. And yeah, I'm excited about those.
Were you able to talk with Andrea at all? And just to see if they'd be able to join us again? Or do you want me to reach out to her?
Oh, you know, I actually emailed
so many
her.
things. Like, I don't know if you had it on your list.
I know that she's crazy around Arbor Day, but
they've joined us yearly the last couple years.
Oh, okay.
And they've brought to the table a couple
More
of their
trees?
own more
Okay.
trees. Yes, a couple hundred.
I'll ask her because I was just emailing her today, sort of trying to think. We're finalizing the planting that's going to go in at the park, but I can talk about that in parks. But
But I didn't know if she was going to possibly do where they did last year, where they had the tree kind of adoption in a sense, and they had a pickup there. If she was going to do that again or not, because if she is, to put that out to the public again would be a great idea. Shortly,
I'll ask her because I'm going to email her because the park board tonight I think is approving our design plan for all of that stuff. And so once I get the green light from the park board, then I'm going to get in touch with Andrea and just be like, we're doing it. So
all right, sounds good.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. City park trees.
City park trees. Well, like I just said, Washington Park is about ready to go. And I think I've been emailing with Jeremy Knitz, park superintendent, and we pretty much settled on a date for the planting, and we are gonna do an event. So Andrea's gonna bring all of her fun stuff, her like 3-foot Lorax, and some other things, and so we're gonna try to make it volunteer oriented. So like her nursery guys are gonna do like the installation, but we want to have like I think she said she was going to reach out to Carrie Tauscher and get in touch with the tree stewards. And I've already kind of mentioned to the mayor that I think, in March we're going to do this event, and he seemed excited about that as well, being there. And yeah, I think it just can be a fun day.
What about high school kids?
Oh, that's a good one. That's what I wondered too. I should get in touch with Nicole Mesker and.
Yeah, she can help you. But I know there were some high school kids who participated in tree plantings in the parks before. So I'm afraid I can't think of the teacher's name.
That would be excellent. Yeah, the more hands we can get on deck to get excited about the planting season, the better.
Do you know Daisy Lee? She's a middle school teacher.
I don't think I do.
Oh, I got to give you her phone number.
Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm excited. I think it's going to be just kind of a great thing to kick off the spring planting season.
Do you have a date?
March 28th, I think. And that's just pending, park board approval of our plan, which I think should be no problem. So probably March 28th. Andrea was like, that's a great day.
These will be basically the trees along Lakeshore Drive.
Yes. We're going to do 22 and space them a little bit better. 22 along Lakeshore Drive, and then 5 Burr Oak and Federer's Alley, and then 5 River Birch around the gazebo.
Now, this is the NIPSCO plantings.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So the 32 that they took out. I couldn't get the 2 for 1, but we have 200 coming. I want to not overextend my watering capability.
Yeah, be careful on that.
Yeah.
Right, and so with the NIPSCO 32 and the 200 that I have coming in the spring, that we're going to be, I imagine I'm just going to be working 7 days a week to get these in the ground. That's 232 new trees that need weekly waterings, and I want to make sure that, I have the adequate capabilities to do that, because it's,
I know that high school kids put in some trees in that area a few years ago. I don't know if any of them survived.
Which park? Down in Washington Park?
Washington Park, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen any little ones there.
Yeah.
But,
I would look around for the gator bags. That would be something.
I was just going to say.
We found them. We found a bunch of them at Central Services.
We bought, 10 years ago, they bought couple cases full.
This
We
must
need
be
a
them
bug.
because my transit director called me and she was like, Jessica, have you seen these? And I was like, what?
Good.
So there's a bunch of them.
I have a source
Yes.
if you guys need any more. But what's nice about those is that's a lot that it contains, and it just seeps out slowly, and it does help keep up on that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we're planning on utilizing the bags. And like I said last time, my assistant and I, we actually just went and we got our physicals on Monday so that we can take our written exam for our CDLs either on Friday or this coming Monday, so that we can drive that watering truck. And our street department director is going to graciously ride around with us while we, learn how to operate the larger
some guidance
vehicles.
on it.
Yeah, so that when we go take the actual driving exam for the CDL, we're prepared.
You're ready to roll on it.
Yeah. So we have that capability. The water bags are definitely going to help, but it's having the ability to jump in the watering truck, fill that 2,000-gallon thing up, and just go
That's gonna
handle
be
business.
phenomenal.
I think is
That is such a big change. That's awesome.
I'm just wondering so whatever happened to those trees that were planted does not happen to these trees that are being planted.
Yep. That's my goal. I mean, I'm just going to assume the water, talk with Jeremy and, work out a watering schedule because I don't want any of these trees to not make it. The 200 that I've purchased and picked out and invited to come live here and, and the 32 that NIPSCO's putting in. I mean, that's my priority is, getting these trees established over the next 3 to 5 years and making sure that they make it.
Okay.
Other park trees. I've done a little bit of work over in Winding Creek Cove. I had gotten an email from Shannon. They had taken down, I think on accident last year, some of the deer protection, the cages and everything. And so I went over there. She asked my opinion if it needed to go back up. The trees are pretty small, so I said yes, but then I went to inspect and saw some deer, activity and rubbing and things of that nature. And so I was like, yeah, we should so they're putting those back up. I actually showed Mick as I was getting in my truck to leave Winding Creek Cove, this deer comes out of the woods and goes right up to the trees and stopped and looked at me, and I was like, it's you. I got out of the truck and chased it off, but I was like, yeah, I think we need the deer protection back up. I also did some work. A lot of the mulching had been piled up over the root flares and against the trunk.
Yeah.
So I dug out all the root flares and just, wanted to, and communicated too that, whenever you're mulching, and this is for any trees that go in, don't pile that mulch up around the root flare. Make sure the root flare is exposed. You can suffocate the tree that way. And so I dug those out, removed some of the ID tags that had, gotten tight on the trees and things. And yeah, it's looking good over there. I mean, those trees they're hanging in there in spite of the deer and stuff like that. So yeah.
Just check into the deer protection.
Yeah, I went over there
it's
today.
Very easy. A lot of, just black corrugated pipe
Right.
flopped over and slid.
Slice it and
They
Great.
pop
put
it right
4
around there.
stakes around each tree and fence it off. Yeah, so
like using
it's not even touching
chicken
the tree.
wire or like
Yeah,
actual like lighter deer fence, or how are they
it
doing?
might be deer fence. I don't know.
Okay, because they will nudge right into it. We
Right.
had to start doing chicken wire at
Oh,
one
you're
account
kidding.
because they would just come right into it, and they're
Yeah.
ruthless. But there's also a product that's a 90-day product. It's a hang bag, and it so you're hanging it from the tree loosely, little twister. It's by Shake Away, and it naturally repels. It's different type, like proxy urine and all that, so it's safe, natural.
Will you email me?
I will. Yeah,
Interesting.
it will repel within a certain amount of distance, and that works phenomenal because there were trees even in the winter that they would just buck up and just and so it really helped that.
Yeah.
And it
How
works.
expensive are those?
When it comes to the pricing that they would get in such a bulk, like I want to say, it comes in a box. There's a 4-pack, and in each pack there's several little packs, so they're all sealed, and probably retails for about $20.
Okay.
But you can get larger containers of them. But that's just the usual, like, on the shelf type of price. And it goes a long way because the coverage of it is pretty far.
Yeah.
So that's also really
yeah.
nice. And we really seriously just maybe every couple months, it says 90 days, but every couple months, a little after a couple months, make sure and switch them out. You can still keep the other ones hanging, put another one up there, just keep it fresh, but it works very good.
Yes.
Because we would go out on accounts to do spraying, rain, and it's extra protection.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I will.
Great. I just can't believe the little bugger showed up right when I was there. I was
Oh, they are.
are you kidding me?
Yes. And there's new systemic stuff too, but that is not going to work for those trees. It's going to be way too expensive for what you're trying to approach with the trees.
Right.
With how much you'd have to use of the product to properly work. So it'd be really good for maybe shrubs or things like that if you're really concerned in an area. But
yeah. I did a little bit of work. I pruned the oaks. I was at the Indiana Arborists Association conference about 3 weeks ago. And so I'm kind of waiting until like right at the beginning of the growing season to prune anything else, just because that active growing season will close those wounds so much more quickly. But the oaks, I mean, definitely still in the dormant season to keep it. Yes. So I got those pruned and trained and hopefully establishing some good central leaders and what have you. But yeah, it's looking good over there. I did go down to, what's that? The park that's right near there that has Trail Creek right through it. Why can't I think of the name of that? Hanson Park. Yes, went and checked on those oaks there. They're hanging in there. They had some damage, like I think from like lawn care equipment and things like that. But
that's where the corrugated tubes. I mean, you can throw it down there. About 6 inches tall.
And it saves for the weed whacking and all of that people do. Yeah.
It's just, it's real cheap.
Yeah.
Usually we just use cutoffs from
you use something left over from a little project or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's great. And it's very inexpensive. Yeah.
The new park trees should get all that too.
Okay. Right.
Everybody at home can do that too to protect your tree. That's just that black corrugated piping. Do you use for drainage? You find it in the drainage department. Depending on the size of your tree, you can make sure that width is good, but you just slice it right down the side and you open it up and you pop it in around that.
Yeah.
It's so great. It's so cheap and easy.
I think that too, and especially when these trees go in down at Washington Park, like good mulching circles, because that visual barrier is so important too. If you have a wide enough mulch circle, it says, really don't go in here.
Yes, people underestimate that.
Yes.
I know they did that when they planted. I don't know how long they stayed there.
Right. Have to make sure that's on the maintenance schedule. Okay.
The city street trees.
City street trees. Well, I mean,
last night we dropped the bomb on them.
Yep. I mean, I pulled old data from like the last few years of our tree City USA applications. Just my visual inspections, having been going out and inspecting trees that people call in as being a hazard, or just driving around the neighborhoods and looking at things and going, whoa. I gave an update on that last night, and I don't think much has changed. We got the data in 2016 from the Chicago Region Tree Initiative that our urban canopy was at 23%. I'm worried it's probably a lot lower now. Not a lot lower, but I'm sure it is. One trend I'm hoping to reverse, with purchasing trees and getting them in the ground in large enough numbers, is to make sure that we qualify for Tree City USA by planting trees instead of taking them out of the ground. But that's another thing too. So I'm just kind of hoping that we can secure the funding for that going forward, and just know that I'm working that angle really intensely as well, just to make sure that we can continue to do that and turn that around. But
in a nutshell, because I have not been able to follow this completely, the ordinance basically was saying what against what we do.
We will talk about that.
Okay.
All right.
But yes, I have the trees coming, he takes them out of the ground mid-March. And then I was going to try to go get loads of about 40 at a time, I think is what our trailer could probably handle. Get those in the ground, go get another 40, get them in the ground, and just try to do like 40 a week unless, we find that we can handle a higher capacity. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be kind of hectic. But not, it's definitely something that we can handle and we can do. One thing that I was thinking about, and I wanted to talk to you all about as well, was I think it might be fun, but I think important, maybe just like a couple of weekends out of that planting madness to try to organize a couple of volunteer groups, get in touch with the tree stewards and, just get a little help with the labor there. So I don't know if, I was kind of thinking of the Saturdays of April 4th and April 11th, maybe just getting some groups together and, I can have myself and my assistant and our trailer and the trees and, our skid loader to move them to the planting sites and things like that, and then just do a planting event for a couple of weekends or a couple of Saturdays just to kind of, ensure that, all these go on the ground and get the community involved in the process too. I think, like we were talking last time, just having the community involved, I think is just so critical because then they feel a connection to these trees. They're just not just some random piece of landscaping that's been stuck in a tree lawn. It's like, no, I was part of this, and so sort of instilling in an ongoing way stewardship over these trees. And so I thought maybe a couple planting events would help with that, and then we can also disseminate literature about tree care, watering, things of that nature, and just say it's really fun to put them in the ground, but it's also really important to take care of them after they're in the ground, and just instilling that sense of community ownership over them as well.
I would suggest seniors again.
Yeah,
because they
awesome.
they look for things
Yeah.
like that to do. My organization, seniors plants or something.
Mm-hmm. And I was thinking again of reaching out to Nicole Mesker and getting in touch with her high school group, and
Right.
At the sustainability committee, there's a high school teacher who I'm going to tap into and just say, hey, what your students want to do, some tree plantings, because I think it's important for youth as well too, because they're not going to care about something that they've never seen or experienced, and
Right.
so. To try to get them to see and experience these things is important as well. So those are just some of the ideas that are in the works. I know we're only a couple months away from that, so it would be a pretty quick turnaround. But even if it were just 5 or 6 people.
And the environmental extravaganza that we talked about earlier,
yes.
Was that on the 25th?
Yeah, it's on April 25th, so it's kind of late.
Just want to make sure. Yeah,
but not in terms of
anytime,
maintenance and yeah.
Counts in regards to
Yeah,
that. But
I was also going to use the March 28th sort of event down at Washington Park as like a kickoff, like, hey, in the next couple of weeks, would you be interested in helping us plant more trees on a Saturday? And so having a sign-up sheet at that event as well.
Yes.
So, so I'm going to do everything I can to sort of publicize that March 28th, because I think if we can all kind of show up in force and just have, if you're interested in volunteering, give us your info. We'll be in touch. So, I'm excited. I'm super excited. There's going to be some fun stuff happening. What's next? Grant application. So there's this grant that came onto my radar. I don't know if we're going to be able to apply for it this year because I don't know what our budget is going to look like in terms of match. But the National Fish and Wildlife Association has a grant. And one of the qualifying categories is urban forest restoration. So I was like, perfect, we can get even more trees. So the due date is on the 11th of this month. And since I'm not sure about having the budget for match yet, I don't think we could apply for it this year, but this is something that, definitely next year.
Yeah.
Yes. And there was some discussion about, being able to, use, make the case for having even more trees as different projects develop throughout the city as well, so that we can step in, or I can step in rather, when there's new development, when there's new things going in, being like, hey, would you like some street trees for that? So that's kind of my working angle for things of that nature. But yeah, that grant I think would be excellent for us, and I know we could qualify for that. So not this year, I don't think, but definitely next year. And then the CUF grants are going to be coming up. I'm going to be working on that throughout the summer, get the CUF grants in the fall. Hopefully we can, I'd like it's, if not for this spring planting season, but going forward, I'd really like to be able to find some grant money or raise some money to purchase us a tree spade attachment for our bobcat.
Ooh, that would make a huge difference.
Yes, rather than augering holes. I was like, no, we just.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so that's a goal of mine to get that. Purchasing, you guys know all about the fund trees that are coming. Just kind of, hoping we can maintain our funding. Another thing that I thought about too, and this would take a lot of organizing, but I don't think it's impossible. I know a lot of communities do things called Oktoberfests. And so it's, everyone's excited about Arbor Day in the spring, but then like the fall planting season gets ignored. And so I've seen communities do Oktoberfests, and it's basically just a festival. I was thinking, I've already talked to at least one brewer in town, like, hey, would you brew a special beer in an oak and then age it in an oak barrel and then sell it at Oktoberfest? It could be a festival of like food, these specialty beers, maybe some music, trees. It could be something that, like the sustainability committee could have a table at. We could have a table at. I could call in, people from like Andrea from, NIPSCO and Carrie. I mean, I think it's sort of thinking about organizing an event, having it at one of our local parks.
Have you talked to Burnham by chance at all?
I haven't talked to Burnham yet, and I see those guys all the time, but I know they'd be
cooperative with community.
Yeah. I think they'd be all over it.
Yeah, I can talk to them if you'd like me to.
That would be great as our fundraiser.
Yes. And that's what I'm thinking it would be to raise money for the tree board. So that we could move forward with projects depending on what our funding for tree purchasing looks like, depending on, what our priorities are, what your priorities are. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yes.
Fall is a phenomenal time to plant, and I think it's really underestimated, and I think it's huge. Like, I've been trying to push that over the last, several years just to remind people. That's, if you think about it, it's several seasons of natural irrigation that you get.
Yes.
If you do the plantings in fall, cooler, less stressful weather. So.
Yep. And at the Indiana Arborists Association conference, I sat and had breakfast next to a professor out of Purdue that's what all the research is saying now. It's fall is the best time to plant. It's a lot less stressful on the trees, and and beer and trees and food, like.
Perfect.
So I'm gonna do my best to run with that. I hope that once we kind of get settled in a groove and things start rolling with the spring, once we get the trees we have coming in the ground, once I get my vector crews up and rolling and things are, then I'm sure I have time. I can't believe I just said, I'm sure I'll have time.
Better not again.
But that's something that I'd really like to try to bring to fruition. I think it, like the, and Skylar and some of the shelf ice, Brewfest people are excited about it. So I'm like, okay, good. You guys know how to do this, so help me.
Yes. Oh, that's so fun.
But I think it would be great. So that's just an idea I had learned about, and I was like, Oktoberfest, you're kidding me. So yes, I will keep you updated on that.
Okay, planning department.
Well, I guess
when we talk about this thing,
the survey, or the ordinance.
Bigger,
yes. Okay, I brought copies of it. If anyone wants a handout.
I got copies of that section.
Yes.
Is this what it is, basically?
Yeah, this is it, the 17.02.
Yeah, I think I have.
Yeah.
Yep, I have that right here, too.
Okay. You want any more?
Throw one over.
Yeah.
Good shot.
Okay. Thank you.
Whatever, I'll just lead into, it was brought up for discussion by Paul Preslinski to rescind this part of the ordinance. That was the ordinance that they voted in last April.
Was it that late?
April, last spring.
Yeah, and then
I
it took
mean-
effect January 1st, 2019.
Yes, and that's when we all did those workshops. I think there was a bunch of us that were going to them. So,
Right. And it was a resolution to refer it back to the Plan Commission for review, but I think in hopes that it would be rescinded or that it would be modified in substantial ways that would undermine its effectiveness.
I think a lot of this here is, when this was put in, when the thought and all the studies showed, and what the people wanted, and the public outcry, everything that went into this, and why we did this here was put into this ordinance. I mean, we did a lot of horse trading and to make it palatable for all sides. This probably has come because that person was not included in the decision in making this, and really didn't have the education behind it. Okay, that's where this is probably going to come down to, is the education.
Right.
I'm not going to go on and bash, but that's where we need to probably educate.
Right.
I know the mayor had a lot of questions here, but he's been asking the right questions with his people around him and the people in the planning, Skylar, and all those people have been repeating the same things that I talked to the mayor about. So I know he's getting his hands around it. He's got his plate full. So we were lucky that we got a little bit of his time, and he's very supportive. And I felt that the Common Council, the majority of them, they knew about this, and one of the council members says, "Oh yeah, that's that one ordinance that we passed last year."
Yeah.
So, it was just, they know about it, and we've talked to them about it, but it finally came down to the person has to be educated. Paul has to be educated on this kind of stuff.
Right.
And what the pros and the cons are. There's probably, I don't know of any cons, but
Was there anything voiced in particular?
no.
I think the concern that, from what I had heard, was that there was a misunderstanding about how it applies to private property. There was like this notion that, you just can't take down trees on property you want to develop, and it's like, that's not the case. It's just that, what the ordinance does is establish a procedure by which, you take into account the preservation of particular trees. But the thing is, when you have the approved construction plans, you can take down any tree that's in that building footprint and in a 10-foot parameter. And so I think the specifics of it are what is sort of getting lost in translation. Yeah,
Right.
it's not a prohibition. It's a process, and it fits in very well, I think, with the rest of our building codes, and what builders and developers are required to submit to the planning office and to the building commissioner, the building inspector, about what they're going to do. Those things have to be approved by the city before they can move forward, and this is an integral part of that. And I think it's just sort of getting lost in translation. This notion like, what? I can't cut down trees on my private property, and it's like, well, you can, but there's particular regulations in place, and they're not prohibitory necessarily, but it's a regulation tool. So
It will, after it's been implemented, I mean, it hasn't really been implemented at all.
Yeah.
Maybe just a little bit that on little private developments, one house or something like that. And that was probably on like 1 or 2 parcels. And it's not even in the center of Michigan City. You know, a lot of the Michigan City lots, they already have houses built on them. There's very few inner city lots that have a forest on them that this would apply to. But, you know, we all know we had issues out in Shoreland Hills. Okay, and that issue on 12 over there. You know, this will give us a little bit of, you know, we'll know about it, they'll know about it. You know, if there's something there that can be saved, then they're going to be, the builders will be rewarded by saving some of this stuff. Now that's a positive.
Yes.
We're not cutting down. We're going to reward them for keeping a smaller oak tree that is still within its viable and protected. You know,
Right. And landscaping requirements go into, that's part of, you know, the planning department's job is, you know, stipulating what, you know, if you're putting in a new building, a new business or something of that nature or a new subdivision, you know, you have to, there's landscaping requirements that the planning department can require of you. And this, you know, feeds into that where it's like, if you know, save a certain number of these trees, you know, the ones that Mick is talking about, the ones that are, you know, reaching, you know, that they're middle-aged or they're reaching that point where they're going to be really productive. It's like if you save those, then then, you know, the planning department's like, okay, well, then we'll credit that and relax some of the other landscaping requirements. You know, so it's like, you know, it works really well. It's extremely flexible. And I think there was this notion that it was just like really rigid and like a no. But it's like, no, it's flexible. It's meant to be, you know, sort of like a living kind of ordinance, you know, in that kind of way. So, yeah.
It's about educating everybody about it. That's the biggest thing. And there hasn't been a lot of voicing about it.
Right. And that, I think I was saying at the last couple of meetings too, was like, you know, I need to do a press release or I need to do something so people know, you know, about this. I mean, it's the responsibility of developers ultimately to be familiar with the ordinances. But, you know, but, you know, so maybe this has started a really important conversation.
Yeah. Is there a protocol that it can come in, though, before we even have to? I mean, obviously, it's going to be important for us to advertise that, you know, but is there a protocol that comes in their whole process where it should be automatically submitted to them and brought to their attention?
I know that the last few, some recent plans that have been submitted, I mean, it's like you have to include a tree survey in that.
So right away, that's being highlighted.
And it's not a very expensive thing to do when you're already paying, you know, contractors to come in. They have to survey everything else, you know, the sewer lines, you know, everything, all the utilities.
Environmental impact studies done on some of these.
So it's like to just tack
some of those are right then and there in it.
And in the other cases in past, it was because they had no idea about any of this.
Yeah, exactly. So
and that's not okay. It's not just for them, but across the board for that not have been highlighted to those people. Right. Okay. So.
Yeah, so I think it's going to start an important conversation and sort of give us the opportunity to provide that kind of education that needs to happen.
Do we have a building packet available to builders and people that would be doing something like this available in the office?
That I don't know.
Valpo used to have it. It's like it's a pack.
It should be an automatic part of
This is in the pack. This is in the ordinance. Basically, they get when they
when they want to build.
So they really have, and I know it's
but like a packet,
to highlight every single part of it.
Concerning driveway, you know, things like, you know what I'm saying, a total packet. So if someone, a builder, you know, basically, I'm sure a lot of them are aware of some of it, but something as important as this, it's too late after you've cut them all down, you know what I'm saying.
Well, you know, we won't find any of the pitfalls until we actually start, you know, we get developers on board and they start working through this. And as we start hearing about it, then we can tweak it as we hear about it. But we can't tweak anything because we haven't found anything wrong with the ordinance yet. So, you know, it's just mostly uneducated. it's the education that we have to give.
Yeah.
What the why that's behind this. So, okay. With that said, is there any more questions? I think we've beat this over the head.
So as it stands right now, it was tabled.
It was tabled until March 1st meeting
Something
in March.
like that.
First
First or
meeting in
second
March.
meeting in March.
Second meeting.
But like I said, even if the resolution does go through, it just goes back to the Planning Commission for review. And while that happens, it's still in effect. But I think, I think like with the proper, sort of education and outreach.
But at the same said that we can't open Pandora's box, because once they stick the crowbar in there and they get this thrown out, what's going to be next? Okay? And Michigan City as a whole has a lot to offer. Some really beautiful neighborhoods, can be developments could be constructed, and it will bring better projects to Michigan City, not just making row houses, cookie cutter houses and continuous straight blocks. We're going to have, it's going to have some different houses will be down, different kinds of houses be set on properties of different types. See, that's the give and take. If a tree is a nice tree is going to be, in a certain spot where the house could be, then the planning commission or the planners can say, well, we can move it over this and relax easement over here, and we can back it up over here, and it's going to give a whole different look and feel. We're going to bring the Michigan City into the 21st century as far as developments, and it will bring greener development. There was already a couple down on the north side of town, low impact building, the Tryon Farm types, very tall but skinny, but they're not sprawled out all over the place. Different type of materials, greener materials. Plus, it's just we can expect the whole rain runoff to be better captured than it is now in a lot of the neighborhoods. It just goes to the sewer and it comes to the taxpayer to deal with it. It'd be nice to deal with it somewhere on site. So
the pollution control itself is such a huge part of it. It's huge.
And
people
those,
have no idea.
And those developments will actually command a higher price, which means a more tax value for the city and the county.
Well, your presentation last night looked so good.
Oh, I
so
missed
educational.
It. Sorry, I missed it. I would love that email.
I missed it too.
Don't worry about it. It was.
Please
hopefully,
email
everybody
it.
woke up thinking differently about trees this morning.
I'm excited to see it.
And I'm just thinking, where else could that be?
Just one closing remark. Okay, this process has been used in other locations.
Other municipalities.
Valparaiso.
Have ordinances like this.
All those areas. Moving off that way. Dyer.
Very successfully.
They're using it very successfully. And you see what's happening. They're blowing the developments are blowing up over there. They will come sooner or later. They just have to know that Michigan City has the door open and the light is on.
Yep.
So it's going to be. It's coming. All of a sudden, it's going to be knocking on the door, and that's how it's going to be. All right. Let's move on down the way here. Tree City designation. Anything?
I didn't have a chance to look online if that's been approved or not, but it should be. I mean, everything was submitted and everything was in order. I think it just takes a little while for state approval.
You won't hear anything until March.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good. Yeah. That's what I kind of thought.
Was a company picked?
Yes. So we have entered into negotiations to finalize the contract. So hopefully that'll be wrapped up. If not at the end of this week, early next week. Get the contract signed and everything, turned over to INDOT, and then they'll issue their notice to proceed. And then the company is just raring to go. So I think it's gonna be good.
Can you tell us what the company is?
I can't yet until we have it inked.
Okay.
But no, we did have our scoping meeting just yesterday actually, and it was really exciting. I'm just glad that this is finally starting to roll. So that should be happening pretty quickly. And then, our goal that we discussed yesterday was to have, the deliverable, which is the tree inventory. They're inventorying a couple other things that are going to be really important for the city as well. Like there's like our light posts, like not NIPSCO ones. This is something that this firm has every capacity to do, and they're excited about as well. Just things that are going to help out the city with their right-of-way asset management. But the trees are, front and center. But they'll deliver all of that. We should have it by fall. So going into next year, to just have that information to help sort of plan and prioritize, it's going to make a world of difference. So, it's good.
Okay. All right. Goals, fundraising efforts. We kind of talked about that up front there. So let's move on. Old business. Workman's comp. Kind of a couple things took precedence before that. I'll have to talk to Amber. I will make a point to call Amber.
Yeah.
And she knows it's coming.
Yeah. She's out. I think she's going to be out until the 18th. But
okay.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, definitely get in touch and then sort of see, what kind of mechanisms are in place or what we can put in place.
New business. I think the only really pending business was what we just talked about. Any other, Deb, anything that new business? No.
Did I hear at the meeting last night there was someone who had put their name in to be on the tree board?
Yes,
Did I
it
hear
was
that?
the one who was
Was
here
that the young
last.
lady that was
Yeah,
here?
Alita.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay, well, I hope so.
Of course, they didn't swear in, or they didn't
No, I was there.
second read. Yeah, all that last night was going on. So
I don't know. The meeting was getting to be very long and monotonous. So when we made an exit, but
well, that second to third reading thing I think is so important. I don't think the newer board council people realize, like Tom said, that the public doesn't, like, we weren't there. We didn't see her speech, but that doesn't mean that we're not interested. It just means that we couldn't. So I think second to third reading I think is very important. Yeah.
but with resolutions, it's only
Resolutions,
heard on
it's only the
one
once. Yeah.
It's only once.
What?
On the resolutions,
Yeah.
it's once and done.
Yeah, one and done.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why we put the push on last night. Okay. Board member comments. Any board member comments? Okay, hearing any public comments tonight? I see no publics. Next meeting date is March 4th, 2020. Anybody have any issues? Pending issues? Okay. I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I so moved.
Everybody in favor?
Hi.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.